Alrighty, we are recording. So, my name's Kirsten Cook. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I've been with Adventure Programs for several years now. I am an avid thru hiker, backpacker, tend to go camping sometimes. So, a lot of the stuff that we share today is through experience. May and Sydney are actually assisting today. I don't know if you can see them on the screen, but I don't know if you guys want to introduce yourselves or just wave.
Hi, I'm May. This is my second year with Adventure Programs. I was the last graduating class of LTC before everything happened. So Sydney. And I like hiking too, and camping.
Yeah, I'm Sydney. I also have like 6 years of backpacking experience, and this is my second year with adventure programs.
Great, thank you too. I would like to start off by acknowledging that we are fortunate to be able to study and work on the unceded traditional and ancestral territory of the Chumash people. Much of the knowledge that I share in these workshops comes from traditional ecological knowledge preserved and passed down through thousands of years by Indigenous peoples. I hope that this presentation can do justice to that tradition of sharing knowledge about how to live off and protect the land, while also acknowledging that the past and present original inhabitants of this land have been irrevocably harmed. I realize that these are just words, but I hope that these words can create awareness and be a step towards future change. Thank you all for being here. This is my fourth workshop of the quarter, I believe. Today's workshop is called How to Sleep Warm in a Tent, which you probably already know. The purpose of this workshop is to give some tips and tricks to keep people from getting cold while backpacking or camping. We'll also talk about what to wear, what kinds of gear to bring, what to eat, bathing habits, and more. Most of the information that we're presenting today comes from a post I wrote for my blog, so a lot of it's copy and paste, let's be honest, but most of it's from experience, some of it's other people's advice, friends. Please feel free to type any questions, comments, or concerns into the chat, or if I invite you to turn your mics on, you're welcome to do that as well. Oh, let me figure out why my chat's not open, just so I have access. There we go. Alrighty, cool. Let's start off with, what do you all want to take away from today's workshop? Alternatively, do you have any questions or want to state anything before we start? You're welcome to turn your mic on or type in the chat.
Well, I'll say something. I actually started backpacking when I was a student at UCSB, which was almost 50 years ago. But I still work at UCSB. But at any rate, I always figure I can learn something new. And so that's why I try to pop in on these whenever I can, because, oh, wow, the equipment's sure changed from 50 years ago, let me tell you. But I'm always learning something every time I talk to somebody who's learned another trick. So
Thank you so much, Virginia.
yeah, actually I go by Ginny, but
Oh,
this is
sorry.
my, no, that's okay. This is my UCSB Zoom name.
Anyone else want to share? Or... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I can't, no worries. I tend to run cold, and I've spent more nights than I like to, pretty cold in a tent. And so I'm just looking for any tricks to stay warm.
Great, that's what we're here for. Anyone else want to share before we get started?
Oh, I haven't gone camping like overnight yet or anything like that, but I wanted to get involved with adventure programs, so I thought I would just hop on and see what it's like virtually.
Awesome, thanks for being here. We're how many of us? At least 5 of us are AP staff, so. All right, thanks guys. I'm gonna keep moving unless someone wants to share something. So I sleep cold when I'm backpacking, and I always thought it was just because it's cold out in the wilderness and my body has trouble regulating its temperature. But after a couple of really scary experiences, thinking that I was going to die because of how cold I was, I realized that this is not normal, and I need to figure out what I was doing wrong and what I could change to feel better and safer. Much of the following information were information are all things that we recommend doing on backpacking and camping trips. Um, on all of them, just as a matter of principle to keep you guys warm. Please keep in mind staying warm in your tent is more than just bringing a warm sleeping bag. You have to spend the whole day doing things that will keep you warm later. Eventually, it becomes second nature, but until then, you'll kind of need to put a little bit of conscious thought into how to take care of your body. May's going to start us off with some common misconceptions related to the topic of sleeping warm or body heat.
Hey everybody. All right, so let's get started. Um, Oops, hold on. Let me pull up my notes. Okay, there we go. So there's this really big misconception that you lose 40 to 50% of your body heat through your head. And I know I thought this for like a super long time, but in fact, the head is where you lose the least amount of your body heat. So I know, I think at least I've always heard like, oh, that's why you should wear like a beanie and stuff. And, I'm not saying that you shouldn't wear those, but like maybe don't focus on like your head as much as like you think you should. And instead you should focus a lot more like on your feet and hands because they have like a really large surface area and you have like all of these like veins that run through it. You have a lot of veins in your hand. I'm taking a physio class right now, so you guys are gonna hear some of the stuff I learned. Um, and the fact that they have a large surface area and the fact that they have all these veins means that they're pretty good at like dispersing like body heat whenever you need to like lose body heat when you heat up. But it also means you could lose a lot of body heat. Um, Luckily, your body kind of has this built-in system where like your veins are going to like contract so that less blood is flowing through them. But that's also how like if you get too cold, that's how you get like frostbite and like lose fingertips, which you don't want. Also, they don't really have any muscle, or not a lot of it at least, and muscle is what produces heat. So you definitely want to bring like a really warm pair of mittens, really good wool socks. Like honestly, I have a pair of like REI wool socks. They were a little expensive, but they were like a great investment. Um, so yeah, keep that in mind. Another false misconception, um, objects that keep you warm, like sweaters, like mittens, are sources of heat, and they're not. You're the source of heat, your body heat. You are your best source of heat. These are just very good at reflecting them and like trapping it and making sure it doesn't escape. I don't think this is like a super common misconception, but like I've seen people try to do this sometimes. Sleeping in like wet, damp clothes in your warm sleeping bag helps them dry. I think you'll just kind of like stay cold the entire night and like they'll still be wet the next morning. I wouldn't really do that. I don't recommend that at all. And yeah, that's misconceptions. Keep going.
Many thanks, Meg. All right, so before you head out on your trip, you're going to want to make sure that you have a pretty solid grasp of what you should pack so that you don't forget anything important that you might need to keep yourself warm. You're going to want to pay attention to the weather to know exactly what to bring, but other than that, this is a good general list to get you started. First off, you'll want a good base layer that's as warm as possible. So think fleece or thermal long underwear. Your gear should be at least 3 or 4 season gear. 4 is better if you're going anywhere cold or rainy. Additionally, bring an emergency blanket that you can wrap around you or hang it above you in the tent to reflect back body heat. Doesn't actually have to be an emergency to use your emergency blanket, but some of them are a lot more flimsy than others. So keep that in mind if you're going to be using it more often than just like the end of the world. You absolutely need a pair of sleep socks, just like May said. These are sacred and can only be worn to bed. This will keep your feet dry and clean, and that'll keep you warmer at night. Also bring a dry bag to put your sleeping bag, sleep layers, and maybe anything like down in so that they don't get wet. Because if your sleep system gets wet, you're kind of screwed. Additionally, bring enough guy lines and tent stakes that you can guy out all the tie-out points in your tent to reduce wind from entering. Feeling wind on your face at night while you're sleeping is not ideal. This is something that I've never actually used, but a lot of my friends swear by it. I think either Sid or May were talking about it. A bivy sack kind of keeps your um, sleeping bag in your body waterproof and windproof overnight. It can actually add a lot of warmth to your sleep system. The girls also recommended a sleeping bag liner, which I'd only vaguely heard of more as keep your sleeping bag clean. Do you guys have anything to say about that, Sid and May?
So there are like a lot of different types of sleeping bag liners, and it's basically like another little sleeping bag that goes inside of your sleeping bag. And they are like washable, so it will help keep your sleeping bag clean. But some of the fleece ones can also add like 25 degrees to like your bag, like warmth rating. And for the bivy sack, a lot of them are like also reflective, like the emergency blankets, so they're helpful in that way. And then they're also able to um, like if for some reason your tent gets wet, like your sleeping bag won't because it's waterproof. So I do recommend those.
Yeah, I have a fleece sleeping bag liner, and it makes a huge difference. It keeps me so warm at night. I really love that thing.
Great, thanks you two. All right, and another thing you're gonna want, make sure you're bringing a tent that is small. You don't want to have a 4-person tent for 2 people or 1 person because there's so much extra space in there that you guys won't be able to heat up very easily. Another thing to add to your packing list is a well-rated mummy sleeping bag. The less airspace you have to heat up, the warmer you'll be and the faster you'll be warm. You want your sleeping bag to be rated to a temperature much lower than the coldest it could possibly get on your trip, because the rating only implies the temperature you could survive at, not actually the temperature you can comfortably sleep at, excuse me. If you use a less insulated pad at colder temperatures, your sleeping bag might actually not live up to its temperature rating. It's important to note that sleeping bags test rating is based on a person who is wearing long underwear and socks and is sleeping on an insulated pad with an R value of at least 5.5. We'll get into R values in a second. In this picture, you've got a square bag on the left and a mummy bag on the right. You can see how much narrower that mummy bag on the right is. It's also rounded, so it's like less space for your body to fill up. It also comes with a hood. Well, it has a hood, it doesn't come with one, that you can cinch around your face and keep your head cozy. So next thing on your list is a good sleeping pad, with a high R value. The R value basically is how warm it will keep you relative to other pads. Foam pads tend to have a lower R rating, but they're much lighter weight and last longer than blow-up pads. If you stack 2 pads onto each other, you can actually add the R values together, fun fact. And then kind of trying to figure out what an R value is. An R value under 2 should work above 50-degree weather, like when the nights aren't colder than 50 degrees. An R value of 5.5 or more should work for below 0-degree weather. So in California, you're probably not getting below 0 too often, but also nights in the mountains can get pretty chilly. In this picture, I have really poor pictures. I apologize. I was just trying to use pictures I had. The left picture, you see a blow-up sleeping pad, super thick, super heavy, probably as big as my entire upper body. I would never bring that backpacking, but if you're car camping, it'll do great. Whereas on the right, you can kind of see the folded up yellow and silver thing attached to my backpack. That one is really lightweight, made of foam, great for 3 seasons, but if we were snow camping, it'd be too cold. Another thing on your list, you want several layers and something to cover your head, and like May was saying, you're gonna want gloves and socks and stuff. Best materials that'll be made out of are fleece, down, and thermals, but some synthetic materials can also be pretty warm, as long as you're okay to go a little heavier. In this picture, or in these two pictures, this is actually the same trip. So on the left, we had, shorts and no hat on, just kind of like chilling. It was warm. We were hiking uphill. Second picture, we were pretty high altitude. It was like snowy, super windy. We were so cold, so we threw on all our layers. We had down, and I think I had a beanie on underneath my windbreaker, and our hands were freezing. So bring those layers to layer up. Another thing you're gonna want, sun protection. Sunscreen, hat, long sleeves to keep you from getting sunburnt. Sunburns can actually make you lose energy because you'll kind of like your body's trying to heal yourself. And so like I don't know exactly the science of it. May's taking a class, maybe she could tell us. But I think like you're sending energy to the surface of your skin and it actually cools you faster. But yeah, so in that picture, that's my backpacking partner, Blake. He's wearing a sun shirt and a sun hat to protect himself. Did you already mention this, May, or do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I kind of already mentioned these. These were like the REI wool socks that I was talking about. This is a picture I took on a backpacking trip in Joshua Tree with adventure programs, and there, all of these people here were like pretty seasoned like campers, backpackers, hikers, and everyone like not only are wool socks really good at keeping your feet warm, but like they're also really good for blisters. Everyone in that picture got like really bad blisters at the end of the trip, and they were like all like limping back to the car. But I was wearing sneakers, like I wasn't even wearing proper hiking shoes, and I still like didn't get blisters because like my socks were like pretty blister proof.
Woo, go good socks. All right, so things you don't want on your packing list: anything made of cotton. It doesn't dry very easily and it doesn't hold very much heat in. And then also avoid clothes that cut off circulation. You want your clothing to be well fitted, but not huge because that'll let cold air in and be hard to heat up, and not tight because you'll prevent blood circulation. Moving on. So things you want to do during the day to start preparing for sleeping warm are on this list. I think most importantly, kind of in life, stay hydrated. Women want to drink like 2 to 3 liters a day, maybe more if they're doing a lot of like hard hiking at high altitude or it's super hot out. Men, maybe about 3 or 4. Just keep drinking. Drink all the time. Don't wait until you get to the end of the day. Just like you should be constantly drinking. Also, you're gonna want to snack all day. When you're drinking, you're eating. Drink, eat, drink, eat. This will keep your metabolism fed as you burn energy all day. My hiking partner Blake told me that I need to eat more all day. Doesn't matter if I don't feel hungry because I'm hiking, 20 plus miles at high altitude with a heavy pack. I'm burning so much energy, and one of my issues I realized was I wasn't eating enough. Make sure the foods that you are eating are high in carbs and in fats, especially if you're hiking hard in winter. You'll really need those calories. Finally, don't get sunburnt. Actually, not finally, but finally for this. You might, yeah, we already talked about why. So wear your sunscreen. Another thing you're going to want to do once you have set up camp is guy out that tent properly. You really don't want to hear your tent flapping, nor do you want to feel the wind against your face. This picture was taken in Patagonia. Super gnarly winds. Like I had some friends who were holding onto rocks to avoid blowing off the mountain. But we specifically brought this tent because it had so many guy out points and like really nice guy out lines. So it was pretty cool. We were able to keep that rain fly down pretty taut. You also want to choose a really good campsite. Don't camp in super exposed areas on hilltops or near bodies of water. This can lower the surrounding air temperature. And you also don't want to be at the base of a valley where cold air sinks and becomes a wind tunnel. This campsite was on top of a ridge. We could find nowhere else that was flat and wasn't crushing plants like LNT. It was so cold. We were miserable all night. So keep looking for that campsite. You also can make something called a bomb shelter. I don't know if this is something that exists as a term outside of Blake, but it's basically like really like tie down the tent or the tarp so tightly that no air is getting in there. You just create a lot of dead air space. It's usually a pretty compact area as well. That's Blake all cozied up in his bomb shelter. Another thing you want to do while you're still out and about during the day, bathe and wash your clothes before you get to camp at night. Sweaty, dusty clothing loses its ability to keep you as warm and can actually irritate the skin. Just make sure you're not jumping into icy water after the sun sets, because obviously that'll make you colder than sleeping dirty. Also, try to practice leave no trace. Don't throw soap in the water. If you can, do your bathing 200 feet. I think Sydney was gonna share this one, or the next couple slides. Just let me know when you want me to change the slide, hon.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah. So this is kind of like the next set of things of like what do you want to think about as the sun is setting and you're already in camp. And the first thing is to also think about your layers. If you have any sweaty clothes or wet clothes from like the rain, you want to take those off because you don't want to sleep in wet clothes, like May was saying. Oh, thank you. So maybe if you are gonna do laundry, do it like midday, and then usually if it's sunny, your clothes can dry like off of your pack, and then hopefully will be dry by the time you're in camp. The other thing you want to do is to go to the bathroom because it takes energy to like store and heat. So, and you also probably don't want to get up in the middle of the night. Can you go to the next slide? Another thing that most people do while in camp as the sun is setting or before is to make dinner. And having like a really good meal is really important because then it'll like keep you warm all night. And having like a hot drink like tea or hot chocolate at the end of the day can also keep you very warm. Next slide. And then some other things you want to think about are just like going to bed as the sun is setting, because then you don't get the opportunity to like become cold first and then like escape to your tent. Instead, you're already warm and then you're going into your sleeping bag and then you're warming up your tent. And then also making sure you put your rain fly on your tent will like keep in the heat, because if you don't put your rain fly on at all, like most tents, like the top is made out of mesh. So if you do think it's going to be a cold night, just like putting on the rain fly and like putting on the guy lines, as Kristen was saying. And then like a last thing you want to do is to fluff your sleeping bag, because then it'll distribute the insulation under you and keep you warmer, like during the night. And Rachel's actually in this picture. I don't know if you noticed. Yeah, but those are just some things you want to think about as the sun is setting.
Great. Thank you very much for doing that. All right, once you get into your tent, there's a couple things you can do to keep warm. Use that mummy bag cinch to cinch around your neck. Also, some bags cinch around the feet. You'll reduce the amount of space you have to heat up and let less warm air out. Wear your down jacket backwards, actually. So the zipper, like don't zip it up, just have it kind of over your arms with the back of it over your chest. And that stops you from squishing all the down underneath you, because the point of down is that it has so much dead air space in it to keep you warm. I believe they call that buffet. Put your hiking clothes, kind of shove it underneath you between your body and the sleeping pad, and that can add another layer between you and the ground, kind of increase your R rating. Also adds cushion if you get bruises on your hips. I do. Get those extremities covered, gloves, hats, socks. And get your face and head inside your sleeping bag because your breath can actually help warm you up. Finally, we got 3 minutes. We got some last ditch efforts. This is a list of things that you can do if you simply just can't get warm. If you're using things on this list every single trip, you're doing something wrong. Like, you should not constantly think you're going to freeze all night and be unable to sleep. Super unhealthy. Figure out what of the other lists you can do before you get to this list. Do you understand? Things you can do 30 sit-ups inside your sleeping bag. That'll get some heat going in your body and keep that all the heat you create inside the bag. Boil some water and fill your water bottle with it, then cuddle the bottle. One of my friends actually said that hers stayed warm all night, so probably a good idea. This won't work with heavy thermoses though, obviously, so plan ahead. Get that emergency blanket out. You can always do that. You brought it for a reason. Again, go to the bathroom. I know if you're freezing, going outside does not sound fun, but it will help you a lot. Another one that's very, very much last resort, start hiking. If you've got to move, you've got to move. Just do anything you can to stay warm. You can also light a fire and warm up over it. Keep in mind, though, if you're using like a gas canister to just make a little stove fire, sometimes those need to be warmed up with body heat at certain altitudes and temperatures. Give someone a cuddle. Alpine cuddle. Don't be afraid of your hiking buddy. They probably smell just as much as you do, so you just, if everyone smells, no one smells, right? We had 3 people in this tent in the picture and we're so warm. Finally, the reason I wrote this article and taught this class was because I almost got hypothermic one time. And I learned that I was overexerted, not acclimated to the altitude. It was cold and I hadn't eaten all day. And I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get warm. I was shivering like for hours. I couldn't eat, nauseated, excuse me. Just like my full body was just like shaking. And we were really scared because we couldn't figure out what was wrong. And we tried a lot of things. We added more layers. I literally wore my backcountry partner's layers. I got into the sleeping bag with him, and the only thing that really worked in the end was getting me to eat something, even though I felt so ill. So that's why I wrote this, or why we created this, because I didn't want other people to experience that. So we're at 8:30 your time. Thank you all so much for coming. I'm happy to stick around, answer questions, talk about stories, whatever. My next workshop is next week, Tuesday the 9th at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And that'll be on forest fire safety and risk management. If you want a recording of this or anything, send me an email. I'm going to stop recording this if I can figure out how to get out of here. Stop. But yeah, thank you all so much for coming.